Welcome to the Free Lawyer Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Miles.
Welcome to the Free Lawyer. I'm glad each of you are here. Let me ask you some questions. Do you constantly worry about what others think? Your clients, your colleagues, judges? And do you ever feel like no matter what you do, it's never enough, that people may be always second guessing you or judging you? What if I told you that letting go of your need for approval could transform not only your legal career, but your life? What if I told you that most lawyers report feeling trapped by the expectations of other people? I'm Gary Miles, and after 40 years as a trial lawyer and managing partner, I've discovered something shocking. The biggest prison holding lawyers back isn't their workload or their clients. It's their own mind. And I've helped countless attorneys overcome stress, break free from self-doubt, and find fulfillment in their careers. And today, I'm here to help you do the same. I'm going to show you how to break free from the constant worry about what others think, so you can finally practice law on your own terms and find the true fulfillment you really deserve. In my 4 decades of practice and years of coaching other lawyers, I've helped attorneys overcome this invisible barrier. And today I'm going to share with you the exact framework that helps them reclaim their confidence and their authenticity. But before we dive in, if you're ready to transform your practice and your life, click the link below to schedule a free coaching session with me. Now, let's break free from this mental prison together. You know, as lawyers, we often feel like we're under a microscope, aren't we? Constantly judged by clients, colleagues, even opposing counsel. And the pressure to maintain a perfect image can be overwhelming. But here's the thing. Worrying about what other people think about you drains your energy. But more than that, it holds you back from reaching your full potential, from enjoying your practice, from enjoying your life. Let me share something deeply personal with you. Early in my career, I was paralyzed by worry about what others thought of me. I lie awake at night thinking, what will people think if the jury rules against me in that case? What does opposing counsel think of my arguments to the court? And those thoughts were absolutely debilitating. The stress and anxiety were constant companions. But then something changed. I discovered that when I stopped worrying about others' opinions, I found true freedom. And that's what I'm about, how to be free as a lawyer. I could finally be myself. For the first time in my career, I experienced real peace and real contentment. And that transformation changed everything, not just my practice, but my entire life. In the next 15 minutes, you'll learn why lawyers are particularly susceptible to approval-seeking behavior, how that mindset holds you back and affects you. You'll learn my proven framework from breaking free from external validation. And most importantly, how to maintain your professional excellence while staying true to yourself, true to your values. So let's talk about the lawyer's trap. You know, as lawyers, we're trained to anticipate every possible outcome, to prepare for every argument, to consider every angle. But that hypervigilance comes at a cost. We become trapped in a cycle of constant worry about judgment from clients, from colleagues, from the court. I remember standing in courtrooms, my arguments meticulously prepared, yet still feeling that gnawing fear of judgment. Would the judge think my motion was weak? Would my colleagues whisper I wasn't good enough? You know, they weren't just fleeting thoughts. They were chains holding me back from my full potential. Have you experienced any of these problem areas? Let me give you some examples. The expectations of your client, constantly pressuring you to be available 24/7. Do you ever feel worried the clients will leave if the results aren't perfect? Do you ever get anxious about billing conversations and justifying your fees? Or do you worry about delivering bad news to a client or managing their unrealistic expectations? Do you ever feel stress about being compared to other lawyers by your clients? And how about the judgment of peers? Do you ever have concerns about what other lawyers think of your legal strategy? Do you ever feel you're measured against the success stories of other colleagues? Do you ever worry about asking questions or admitting uncertainty or saying you're not sure? Do you ever feel pressure to maintain a perfect professional image? And what about court and being in court? Do you get anxious about how judges might perceive your arguments? Do you ever worry about being unprepared or less knowledgeable than your opposing counsel? Do you ever stress about opposing counsel's opinions of your skills or your performance? Do you ever worry about making mistakes when you're in a courtroom full of other attorneys watching you? Do you ever feel pressure to perform perfectly in every hearing or trial? And what about at your firm? Do you feel stress about meeting billable hour requirements? Do you worry about the opinions of your partners about your work? Do you ever feel pressure to take on more cases or more work to prove yourself? Do you ever get anxious about your work-life balance choices being judged or not measuring up to the firm expectations? See, this isn't just about comfort. It's about survival in our profession. But here's what nobody tells you. Those fears you have, they're universal. But more importantly, they're optional. Let's talk about the hidden costs. And maybe these are some real situations you faced this week. Have you ever been in a settlement negotiation and instead of trusting your judgment about the fair value of the case, you're intimidated by opposing counsel, second guessing yourself, wonder if the mediator thinks you're being unreasonable, or your potential client questions your fee structure, and you feel pressured to lower your rates because you're worried the client will think you're too expensive, or you want to leave the office at 6 p.m. to make your child's soccer game, but you stay late because you're concerned about what the other partners might think. Or during a court hearing, you hold back from making a bold and aggressive but valid argument because you're worried what the judge will think. Or in a client meeting, do you ever soften the bad news because you're afraid of the client's reaction? You know, these situations aren't just uncomfortable. They're costing you. They're costing you peace of mind, authentic relationships, revenue. They're costing you your happiness, your fulfillment, and your success. You know, when you're constantly performing for the approval of others, you don't show up as your best self. You don't show up as your best self for your clients, for your family, but most importantly, for yourself. If this resonates with you, don't wait to take action. Click the link below to schedule your free coaching session. And now let's talk about the solution. Let's talk about the breaking free framework. You know, there are practical solutions to those everyday challenges that honestly we all face. I call this the freedom framework, and it's helped many other lawyers. Step one is to recognize the trigger moment. The first step to breaking free is to recognize those crucial moments when you start acting from fear rather than confidence. Let me give you a few examples. Watering down your argument in court. You've prepared a strong motion. You know your position is sound, but as you stand up to argue, out of fear, you start softening your language. You add qualifiers like perhaps or maybe. You maybe back away from one of your most aggressive points. You may even apologize for your bold positions. It's not about being respectful. It's about fear of judgment. Or let's talk about your fees. You've set fair rates based on your experience and your value, but when discussing fees, you start with, I'm sorry, but my rate is. Or you feel compelled to justify every billing entry. Or you compare your rates to others apologetically. Remember, your expertise has value, period. Or the unnecessary late night at 7 p.m., your work's done, but you stay late because your partners are there. You want to be seen as dedicated. You're worried about being judged for leaving early, and you start sacrificing family time for appearances. You know, those examples are not just inconveniences, they're decision points. They're opportunities for you to choose freedom over fear. And here's what makes these trigger moments so dangerous. They seem small in the moment, but they compound over time. And every time you give in to those fears, You reinforce the prison of others' opinions. But here's the good news. Once you learn to recognize these trigger moments, you can turn them into opportunities for growth. They become your chance to practice freedom. So start by, for example, just keep a note on your phone. When you notice yourself in one of those situations where you start to feel triggered into acting out of fear, just make a note in your phone, because that awareness that you're starting to think about fear is your first step towards freedom. Step 2 is to apply the reality check. The reality check is your powerful tool for breaking free from reaction mode and moving into intentional, purposeful action. So imagine this. This happened to me. It's Monday morning and you open an aggressive email from opposing counsel. They question your litigation strategy, suggesting your position is entirely without merit and demanding an immediate response. I've had lawyers tell me I'm dumb and I don't know what I'm doing. And when you get that, your heart starts racing and self-doubt creeps in. This is your reality check moment, and here's how to use it. The first step is to pause. Physically pause. Close your email. Take a breath. Take a deep breath. Reflect for a moment. This isn't just about calming down. It's about creating that space between that trigger and your response. That space so you can make an intelligent, authentic, free response. The second step is to ask these 3 critical power questions. Question 1, what would you advise a colleague in the same situation? Imagine your colleague and friend received that email. What wisdom would you share with him? Notice how clear your thinking becomes when it's not personal. Question 2, what does my experience tell me is the right move? Reflect on similar situations you've handled successfully. Remember past cases where you stood your ground. Trust your accumulated wisdom. Don't let one aggressive email erase years of experience. And question 3, am I making this decision based on facts or on fears? Facts might be the law supports your position. Fears might be worry about your reputation. Facts might be your fees are fair and reasonable and justified. Facts might be. Fears might be you're worried what your client will do. So separate your emotional reactions from your professional judgment. So remember these 3 questions. What would you advise a colleague in the same situation? What does your experience tell you is the right move? And are you making your decision based on facts or on fears? And this shifts our perspective. This is what makes a tool so powerful. It moves you from being reactive to thoughtfully responsive, from acting out of personal motives to true professional ones, from acting out of fear instead of acting out of fact, acting with purpose, acting with intention. So here are some common situations for reality checks. When your client questions your strategy before a big court appearance, during a difficult negotiation, when setting boundaries with demanding clients, before making significant decisions about taking a case or not. So create a reality check reminder card. Write those 3 questions down or put them in the phone and keep them visible. When pressure hits, when you feel that trigger moment, use those questions as your compass. Remember this. The goal is not to eliminate all self-doubt. It's to prevent that doubt from driving your decisions. The reality check isn't just a tool. It's your bridge from fear to freedom. It helps you to